All right. Hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Talkin Investing. You're here with Tom and George. Hello, George.
Kind of, George. I'm a little off.
You're a little off today. You're a little off.
No, off every day.
Well, welcome to the stream and welcome everybody. I'm going to start right out. We got 6 likes. So if everybody could please smash the like button, it will help the stream in real time in a big way. Let's get people on here to talk because so much went on with Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners this week. So we got a bunch to go through. Let's do this thing. Let's make it happen.
There we go. That's better.
All right. Now we see George all centered, loud and clear.
Well, I didn't lose any money Tom today, but they wrecked me yesterday.
They got you yesterday.
Nope.
Well, I will say the last 4 days of this week, I'm going to break the week down. We got the week to date, we got the year to date, but I also separated Monday out, and I want to show you guys what happened this week because I thought this was, and I understand, we get these weeks. I thought this was a really, really rough week for the Bitcoin miners. So if you're invested in the Bitcoin miners, maybe some of you took this opportunity to buy the dip. I know as a group, we're getting more than exhausted in buying the dip. I mean, this is getting ridiculous. And just the behavior of the Bitcoin mining stocks this week was peculiar. It wasn't good. I do think I showed on our members only live stream between 10 o'clock and 10:05 a.m. on Tuesday, every single Bitcoin miner got destroyed in those 5 minutes. And really, nothing's been the same since then. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on. Usually these things are temporary, so I'm not pressing the panic button. But there were a few Bitcoin miners that announced earnings. I didn't love them. I'm going to go through and talk about those. There was one Bitcoin miner that announced their monthly operational update. I didn't love that. And some of these are Bitcoin miners that I own that I usually talk very favorably of. But, I try to always say what's on my mind and what I'm really thinking, and this time around, there were a couple of things that I really did not like to see. So I'm going to say I'm going to be putting 2 of my holdings on a 90-day probation period, and they're going to have to do some stuff or I may reconsider. I did this once before with Riot, and over the next 3 monthly operational reports, I thought they did what they needed to do. And so I didn't do anything, but I think we're back again. And I'm going to go through an analysis that I think is the most important analysis on which of these Bitcoin miners stands a chance of winning in the short term and the long term. So all kinds of stuff. All right, we got 26 likes. I'm going to go one more time. If anybody would be so kind as to smash the like button, it does help the stream out in real time. I think
Tom,
people
I liked it, just so you know.
Thank you, George. I think people are used to us being a few minutes late, and we actually started pretty much on time today, so it might take a few minutes for people to roll in, so we'll let them roll in, but we'll continue our conversation. And just to say hello to a bunch of members. I see a bunch of members in the chat. Hello, Pogo, Admin, CleanSpark to 50, Sour Melon Gaming, Robin. Let's see who else. Alim, if I pronounce that correctly. Bitcoin to 100. Donnell. Craig. And Midway with a very generous super chat. Thank you very much, Midway. It's appreciated. Let's see what Midway has to say. Midway said, BitDeer might not be able to use their ATM a lot because the stock is thinly traded. Can they just keep on issuing lots of convertibles to raise the money they need to reach 60 exahash next year? Or would that have serious downside? So BitTier's one I want to talk about. They issued a press release, and they didn't have the greatest week, and it's true. They have less trading volume, and a lot of the companies that are not based in the U.S. Remember, all of the companies that we follow are listed on the NASDAQ, so they are listed on the NASDAQ and traded in the U.S. But a lot of them are. Some of them, I should say, are not based in the U.S. and those tend to trade on thinner volume. And they tend to be slower to get institutional adoption. So those two things do hold it back. We saw TeraWolf recently go to this scenario where they ended upsizing their convertible notes to $500 million. And, we talked a lot about, is this maybe going to be a new way of doing this versus this endless at the market offerings? And yeah, it gets harder and harder. If you're trading on thin volume, if your stock is undervalued to begin with, you don't love issuing new shares of stock in those scenarios. But by the same token, you got to try to get to where you're going if you want to succeed. So Midway, you bring up a very good point. It is a conundrum. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more convertible debt out of these Bitcoin miners versus these at the market offerings that just the year 2024, the at the market offerings went absolutely ballistic for these companies. Some of it I did say at the beginning of the year. I do think a lot of companies are doubling down on infrastructure to get ahead of the next cycle. So I'm not saying they're writing this cycle off. I just think they did a disproportionate amount this cycle to grow their base infrastructure. Riot's a company that's going to get to, they're building out 2 gigawatts worth of their own infrastructure. And there's several other Bitcoin miners doing similar things to bring everything in-house. So unlike the machines, which may only have a 3 or 4 year lifespan, and then you got to renew your fleet, some of this infrastructure, energy infrastructure, has a much longer lifespan. So this one-time only type of investment, I think, is going to pay off as time goes on. I feel like that's the philosophy, and a lot of them bit the bullet. Sour Melon Gaming, I'm going to move on. Thank you very much for the super chat, and thanks for bringing this up. It's something I was going to talk about. Ben Gagnon, this is from Sour Melon Gaming. Ben Gagnon lied on an interview 2 weeks ago. He said 21 exahash by year end, but after their terrible no growth report today, not a chance in hell. That is from Sour Melon Gaming. And I will go through. So let's switch to, I'm going to go read they put out their monthly operational report. As always, on the first business day of the month, Bitfarms puts out their monthly operation report. So I will give them credit for doing that. But something new happened in this report that has not happened all year. George, any quick thoughts or interjections? I know we're going a mile a minute here.
No, I was reading what Harrison just said. He said the real money is in day trading these. Amen, brother. Keep going.
I think that's a great comment. I don't do it, but man, as time goes on, the wild swings in these stocks, there's pretty wild swings in Bitcoin, but the wild swings in the Bitcoin mining stocks, if you got a beat on this and you're day trading. But what I will say, and George, you've talked about this more than once, you can't just do this. You can't be 1 foot in or 1 toe in. You got to be paying attention.
You do.
And if you are, you can start to get a read on this stuff. So obviously, please.
I did. I thought I had an unbelievable week, and then I let it ride. And as soon as I let it ride, dude, I get destroyed every single time.
It's frustrating. It's very frustrating. Now, I'll also say when we go big picture to the 1 day, I think we went right exactly back to the line of support that I talked about on the Tuesday members only live stream. So we did talk about this exact scenario. We'll see if it holds, and we'll talk more about that. But I want to go to Bitfarms, which put out their monthly operational report. So let's start there. And then we did get a big giant data point today, so I want to talk about that as well. Also, Amazon announced earnings, and they went ballistic. They buoyed the whole entire market today. Bitcoin miners notwithstanding, because the Bitcoin miners did not have a great day. So let's go to what Bitfarms. Actually, Bitfarms put 2 things out. They put this out yesterday. Bitfarms enters into second 10,000 miner hosting agreement with Stronghold Digital Mining. So they already were planning on moving 10,000 of these over to Stronghold. Obviously, they're buying Stronghold. They've now committed to moving another 10,000. And they say, under the terms of the hosting agreement, Bitfarms will deploy an additional 10,000 miners, originally expected to be used in Paraguay, the Stronghold Scrubgrass site. Energization is anticipated to start in December 2024. Okay, so that's what they put out yesterday. And that is 2.2 exahash of additional operations that they'll have up and running when these are installed. But more importantly, here's what they did today. Bitfarms provides October 2024 production and operations update. I'm going to interject myself. We're at 45 likes. I appreciate it, guys. If you could do us a giant favor, if you're able to, if you're willing to, if you could smash the like button, it does help the live stream out in real time, and it is much appreciated. So thank you to the 45, now 46 who have. Okay, so let's dive into this, because there was a sentence in here that was conspicuously missing, and to me, this is a real issue. And you guys know I've been holding Bitfarms for what seems like forever. I've continued to say I have confidence in their plans, and but here we go. So the good news is they earned 236 Bitcoin in October. So despite the fact that the difficulty level was up, they earned more Bitcoin in October than they did in September. So that piece of this puzzle was positive. They have 1,188 Bitcoin in treasury. Okay, they're holding some Bitcoin. That's good. It's small compared to, the top four. There's four companies that are really starting to build Bitcoin on their balance sheet, or continuing to build it, I should say. And there's two or three others that are in the 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 range that, that's, I'm not going to dismiss that, but okay, here we go. CEO Ben Gagnon stated, while we are pleased to have reached our year-end efficiency goal of 21 watts per terahash, 3 months ahead of schedule, we recognize that we are behind schedule on delivering our mid-year 12 exahash target. So that is to say nothing of their end of the year 21 exahash target, which they have reiterated in every single press release up to yesterday's. So yesterday's, they did not include that. And then today, this monthly operational report, they did not include that. And you'll see they went from 11.3 in September. They were 11.3 in August as well. So they went 11.3 in August, 11.3 in September, and now they're at 11.5. This was the exact scenario that I said I would be concerned with. So I said, I don't mind if they don't hit their 21 exahash, and obviously, again, this is just my opinion. So you guys let me know in the comments, and maybe we'll do a quick poll. Before I continue with this, let's do a poll.
Poll! I'm trying to be up close and personal. Today, we're going to talk about the election and run through each candidate in the United States platform. I think that's the easiest way. And then you decide which one you want to vote for. We will not pick one for you, but we want to talk about it because we think it's important. Tom's all nervous, by the way. Because I think it does have a lot to do with the stock market, too.
Well, there's no question about it. There's a million articles written about how this election is going to affect the stock market. And there's a million articles written about how this election is going to affect Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. I've got a few of them that we're going to go through today to kind of tee up your segment, George.
I'm going to tell you something interesting, though. So on Wednesday, I was talking to Tom, and I'm like, how in the hell did Bitfarms go up so much? And I mean, I didn't make six figures on it, but I did good.
Yeah, you got in and out. So that was a day
awesome.
trade for you.
Yeah, I was like, that thing's awesome.
Okay, so I'm going to put this poll up and then we'll get back to it. What did you think of Bitfarms' October update? Love it, like it, hate it. Okay, so for me, monthly operational exahash of 11.5, they basically added nothing. And I mean, remember, some of this they're adding at the Stronghold site. So it seems like they didn't even really manage to accomplish much of that, and that's their own thing. So I like the 236. That's a big jump from 217, despite the fact the difficulty level went up. They mined more Bitcoin with virtually the same amount of exahash, but this 11.5 to me is now concerning. What I had said I was looking for was progress. I wanted to see them add a couple of exahash. And I even said, listen, if they don't get to 21, they've been reiterating 21 exahash in every single press release all year. My feeling was, even if they didn't get to 21, if they showed significant progress in October, November, December, and they told us, okay, we missed, but here's when we're going to hit, then to me, we've seen a lot of these companies miss by a month or 3 months. We've seen some of these companies miss by a year or more. So, but this to me, I don't even see them talk about, where's 21? Where's 21? It's not in here.
Oh, I thought the way everybody made it seem to me with this whole Stronghold thing was that they were just, they had the machines, they were sending them, and they were going to energize them up immediately.
Right. Well, that was right. That's the first. This thing that they put out yesterday for 10,000 machines, that's the second batch of 10,000 machines they're going to send over. And that's going to happen a little later. But the other one they already announced. So you're right. I would have thought a bunch of those would have been sent over during October. They would have been up and running. They would have had their exahash increase just on that alone. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. I don't feel like there's a lot of transparency. So this is the first time in a long time where I am disappointed in Bitfarms' monthly operational update, and I am worried. And I will say, this is that 90-day thing. If in the this is October, November, December. If by December we don't have some clarity as to what happened to this goal of getting to 21 exahash, then I'm left to assume, what do investors hate more than anything? Uncertainty. We assume the worst. If they don't tell us if something bad's going on, just tell us. Hey, you know what? It's going to take an extra 6 months. It's going to take an extra X, or we can't do this piece at all. We're going to try and put them somewhere else. But telling us nothing and then all of a sudden just not even mentioning at all, to me, this is the first time I have to say I've been holding Bitfarms since the last cycle. So, and I'm not, one monthly operational report is not going to make me abandon ship. But I would say, Ben, if you're listening, or if anybody over there is, I feel like there's not enough transparency in this. I think it would help investors to understand a little bit more about what's going on in relation to the goal of 21 exahash by the end of the year. Because remember, beyond that, they have a goal of 35 exahash by the end of next year. So is all of that adjusted? And it may be okay if it is. Just tell us, what's the new plan? Or are we just a little off the old plan? Go ahead, George.
Well, let me step in it like I always do.
All right, here we go.
CEO. First of all, this is not Ben's information. See, the reason they had to go with a person inside, and this is the whole thing that Jason's been screaming about, by the way, is they don't execute well. Ben now is no longer in the position he was before, right?
Yeah, I don't know how much of that he does, but he was the execution guy. He was the one making this stuff happen.
Yeah, and so now he's gone, and now he's left with this. You know what I mean? And I have to think that a lot of the decisions aren't really being made by him. If I had to give you an answer, I don't know anything. I haven't talked to anybody, but if I had to give you an answer, that's it's a consensus. And he's not really a CEO, if you know what I mean.
Well, and just to add to that, with any CEO, he just was put into this position. So what happens if you're a brand new CEO? You're left with somebody else's mess, to whatever extent that is. So,
right.
everyone's going to look at Ben at this, but this is what this is what they handed him.
Yeah, but but that's how things it should be addressed. And you see, this is the thing with the social media age that we have now. There's so many ways to communicate, and there's so many ways. And I'm going to give a shout out to freaking Cleanspark, because at least they're transparent.
Yeah, I think Cleanspark is very transparent. They give regular updates.
Except when they're going to go on a Friday and they sell on a Thursday. And then on a Friday they go, oh, by the way, have a nice weekend. Right up. Sorry.
Well, they're not the only ones. So this is the only, unless something came out after hours, I checked 15 minutes before the stream started. This was the only monthly operational report we got today as of, a half an hour ago. So somebody let me know if a new one's come out since then. And there's several companies that I think are doing a good job of being transparent. And Bitfarms, I think, has had good monthly operational updates in the past. So I just, I'm calling this one out because I think it's falling short of what it needs to be. But I don't think this is a long-term trend of them not being transparent and not doing what they say they're going to do. But it is very concerned. We talked about a scenario of, man, if they come in under 12, that's gonna, I'll be nervous. And so they did, and I am.
I loved them this week. They were the best stock ever.
For you made money on them. So in the end of the day, that's what we're here for.
Even when you and I spoke about it, I was surprised you didn't sell any, because you knew that's what this was going to do. I
know. And
40 cents, Tom, that's a freaking, it's not like 30 something cents. It's crazy.
Cosmic Contrarian saying, guys, most of these miners won't be around in a few years. Just buy Bitcoin and hold it. So some of these miners won't be around. We've pared the group down to 12 from the 19 we were following. And there was more than that. There was 23 or 24 traded, in the US, and we're following 12. And I do think some of them will morph into something else. Some of them will go away. Some of them will get consolidated. But I'm going to go through a couple of them, put their quarterly earnings out, and we're going to be getting most of the rest of the quarterly earnings between now and the next 2 weeks. And this was the one I've been warning for months. This is going to be the worst quarter for all the Bitcoin miners, for everybody. But there's a few things in specific that I'm looking for. And I'm going to go to Riot, and they're the other one. I didn't love what I saw. A lot of what you see, you already know, because you get monthly operational updates. So, their revenue, when they say, oh, they missed on revenue by this much or that much, it's like, well, we already knew what their revenue was, plus or minus. We know exactly how many Bitcoin they mined each month, and we know the price of Bitcoin on the average. So, that's not really what we're looking for. The two pieces of information, there's multiple pieces of information, but what's their cost per coin? And what's their more equally importantly, I was going to say more importantly, I think maybe in the end it is more important. What's their overhead? And some of these companies' overhead, to me, is out of control. And Riot is a company that, when I compare it to its peers, they have an awful lot of overhead. And I want to see these companies, and some of them have done over the last 18 months, they've really tightened their belts and they've gotten control of their overhead in a big way. Because here's the bottom line. It's getting right. The Bitcoin reward got cut in half. So two things have to happen for the Bitcoin miners to succeed. Number one, the price of Bitcoin has to go up a lot, right? It has to do its bull market thing. Number two, the Bitcoin miners have to be as energy efficient as they can be to create gross profit. And that gross profit has to exceed their overhead if they're going to make money. So if that formula doesn't exist, if you're looking at it right now and extrapolating out and going, wait a minute, even if they get where they say they're going, if their gross, if their cost per coin keeps being this and their overhead is that, how high does Bitcoin have to go for them to become profitable? And, you know, if the answer starts to be unreasonable, it can be a little worrisome. And so if I look, let me see if I can find. So here, this was 2 days ago. Riot Platforms reports third quarter 2024 financial results. Reports 84 million in total revenue. I will say I don't like the 84 million in total revenue. They have an engineering piece of their equation that essentially is a wash. It breaks even or loses $1 million. So to me, that's kind of a gross up on their number. Their Bitcoin mining number, let's see if I can find it. Okay, 67 million in Bitcoin mining revenue. So their top line for me was 67 million in Bitcoin mining revenue. But the problem with that is, did I lose it? Where'd it go? I had it highlighted. Just give me a second. Here we go. Selling, general, and administrative expenses during the quarter totaled $66.9 million. So $67 million in overhead. Well, that's what their revenue was. So it doesn't matter what their gross profit is. You don't, right? So they're in an equation where they've got a lot of work to do to get to GAAP profitability. So again, I'm not saying it can't be done. What I'm saying is, what's the math? Where does Bitcoin have to go to at their current gross profit? And I'm going to go to their other slide because there is some good news inside of Riot. So while I led with the thing that disturbed me the most, this continuation of this amount of overhead, to me, that's a lot of overhead to cover when your revenue is basically the same number. When your top line is the same number as your overhead, that leaves nothing for gross profit. So if we go here, so here's some of the better news. Low cost producer. So their Q3 cost per coin was $35,000. So even if that continues to go up, let's say it goes up and the network rate goes up, so it goes up to 40 or 42. You know, if Bitcoin can get to $150,000, and let's say it even goes up to 45,000, now all of a sudden you're talking about a lot of gross profit. So keeping this number down is key, and I think Riot is competitive with their cost per coin. But they mined 1,100 Bitcoin. For the amount of exahash they had, which was 28, this underperformed their peers on a Bitcoin mined per exahash basis. So that's something they need to improve on. The more coins they can mine, obviously, a couple of things will happen. Their revenue will go up and their cost per coin will probably go down if they're more efficient in mining coins. The other good news is these guys have a fortress of a balance sheet. Cash and marketable securities, $619 million, $428 million of which is just straight cash, and then another $660 million in Bitcoin. They have $1.28 billion in liquidity. So they're not going anywhere anytime soon. I still think this is a company that will take the run, in my opinion, during this Bitcoin bull market. But some of the underpinnings here, I think they need to do a lot of work on. And, they're busy chasing Bitfarms, and now I'm looking at Bitfarms going, they got some work of their own to do. So I feel like Riot's got to focus on Riot and get some of these numbers in line. And they have. They had another segment of their business that was getting destroyed, that they've completely eliminated. They had a hosting segment that was losing $20 or $30 million a quarter. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was some big number like that. Quarter after quarter after quarter. Well, they've wound all that down. They've gotten rid of all that. So they are taking steps in the right direction. Obviously, there's a lot going on with any one company. But my concern here is their ratio of overhead to gross profit. And it seems like Bitcoin has to go either they need to mine a lot more Bitcoin and or Bitcoin needs to get a lot higher for this company to be, having a gap income. Now, with all that said, their EBITDA was almost break even. So even with all of this noise, you back out the non-cash items and they were pretty much, let's see if I can get there. So adjusted EBITDA was, they lost $3.6 million versus their GAAP net income, they lost $154 million. So you can see, even with everything I just said, from an EBITDA standpoint, they're still pretty close to break even. Let's get back to the Bitcoin chart and see what that's doing. And then let's take a look at our poll. What did you think of Bitfarms' October update? 16% loved it. 30% liked it. 54% hated it. So I think that's probably by far the highest if I had done this poll on previous monthly updates. So let's hope there's maybe one of two things. Maybe a clarification sometime in the middle of the month as to an update as to what is happening with their plan, and or a much better, more transparent, more clarity in next month's operational update. I hope we don't even have to wait until next month, but let's see. So that's Bitfarms.
Tom, 158 people watching and only 86 likes.
Let's hit the button. If you guys could do us a favor and smash the like button, it helps the stream out a lot in real time. We got a lot to talk about. We want to get people energized and back into these Bitcoin miners because the public has lost interest in the Bitcoin miners for now. I do believe it will come back, as always, later in the cycle when people have missed a lot of the run. They'll start piling in. But let's see if we can get some early adopters here.
Pump hut.
Pump hut. So I don't know if Pomp had a segment on Hut, but Hut had a great week. So let's go take a look at what everybody did this week, because these are the numbers. And what? See, now they all disappeared on me. So just give me just one moment, if you would. And let me see if I can fix this chart. I don't know why this happens to me sometimes. Right. And it's fixed. Bring it back. Okay.
Man, Upwork is amazing. Sorry.
So this is what happened to the Bitcoin miners this week. Bitcoin was up 4%. So despite its pullback near the end of the week, Bitcoin was up 4% on the week. It had a good week, but you'll see 10 of the 12 Bitcoin miners were in the red. And to Barry C's point, and Barry, thanks for being a member. Thanks for pointing this out. Apparently, Pomp had a segment on them, and he pumped Hut. They were up 8% on the week. They were the winner on the week. They're doing very well now at this point from a stock performance standpoint. BitDeer was up 4%. That matched Bitcoin. Everything else was down. And you'll see CleanSpark was down 9%. So let's wait and see what their monthly operational report is. Right now, I have to say, one of my highest levels of conviction, and again, not financial advice. Please do not do what I do or what anybody else does. Do your own research, do your own due diligence, do your own thing. But for me, one of my highest levels of conviction is CleanSpark. I think that they have done everything that they said they would do. There's a company where if you look at their top line revenue versus their overhead, you're looking at a much different equation than the one that we just looked at. And so, I like everything that's happening with CleanSpark. I don't know why they're struggling this second half of the year. They were the retail favorite for the first 5 months of the year. They were ahead of all the other Bitcoin mining stocks by a mile. That has reversed itself. They were down 9%. Bit Digital was down 9%. Marathon was down 6%. I mean, not good results. But what I want to add to this is to put this into context, this is where these all ended on the week. So, CleanSpark down 9% on the week. If I go to this chart, this was Monday. So I took a screenshot of the big board on Monday. So just on Monday, CleanSpark was up 10%. It finished the week down 9%. Right? Iron was up almost 18%. It finished the week in the red. BitDeer was up 24%. Right? Where did BitDeer finish? Let's see. Up 4%. So on Monday it was up 24%. So it dropped 20% since Monday. So, this week started out, this was a very exciting beginning of the week. This looked like we were off to the races. This was one of those days. This was one of those old school bull market days. Everything was green. Most things were double digits green. This is how the week started. And by the end of the week, we were in this scenario. So to me, I thought this was from a stock performance standpoint, I thought this was one of the most disturbing weeks for the Bitcoin miners. Now, is it going to end up being a nice big buying opportunity? I'm going to ask that question next. What did you guys do with this pullback this week?
I cried. Yeah, I went in the corner and cried, Tom.
I'm not gonna put that as one of the options.
Oh, I rotated into marathon, by the way. And that was it was great for like the first 35 minutes.
That's not long enough. All right, so what did everybody do this week? And then we're going to get to midway. So, bought the dip, held, or sold? I will tell you guys, I've been saying for the last couple of months, all my positions are full. I'm not going to buy unless something dramatic happens. But the price action, and I didn't buy anything this week, but I will tell you, if I see this happen again next week, I'm going to start buying a few select stocks because to me, this makes no sense. And some of the ones that I have the higher levels of conviction in are the ones getting beat up the worst. So if we get another week of this type of action, I said I wasn't going to buy anymore unless something dramatic happened, but I'm on the verge of, not going crazy, not doubling down or any of that kind of stuff, but just doing some more dollar cost averaging when I haven't bought in a while. I said I was done. I thought we were on the move, and now we get this wacko action this week. And if it continues, I'm going to buy. So Midway, thank you very much for being a member. Thanks for the super chat. Midway said, in Cypher's earnings call, they didn't even mention doing Bitcoin mining at their new 300 megawatt Barber Lake site. So they are probably very close to getting a big AI high performance computing deal done for at least that site. So that's an interesting, that was an interesting takeaway, Midway. Thanks for that. Insight. So Cypher was the other one that put out their earnings and had their earnings call. I felt a little bit better about Cypher's than I did about Riot's. Obviously, there's differences in those companies in big ways. And Midway has pointed out one of them. Cypher is just flat out mentioned time after time that they are expecting some big hyperscalers. I know that's a word some of you love here. Hyperscalers in the high performance AI computing. They're expecting those deals to start coming in. So we're going to see. I do think their stock performance and their company performance is going to be dependent on that. But in addition to that, they do have big growth plans in 2025 for their Bitcoin mining as well. So, they're not a company that's given up on Bitcoin mining. They are a little bit later to the party than some of the other ones. Oh, Barry C is saying Pomplioni is now a HUT advisor. So I did not know that. So
I don't know who this person is.
Anthony Pomplioni, he's on CNBC all the time and other networks. He's a very prominent Bitcoin personality. I don't watch all his stuff, but I like it. Once a week he does a very quick update, and he's, he's an influencer, and he's very famous. And it sounds like he's now an advisor for Hut. I don't know what to say. Hut seems to be.
I guess you turned down the position, Tom. Is that what you're saying? Or you're not going to talk about it?
You can infer whatever you want from that information.
They didn't want anybody that had any real accounting knowledge or understanding of what's going on that wouldn't push back.
So if we look at year to date, you'll see Hut is now green. So they're up 20% year to date. So 2 Bitcoin miners were green and they had a bad week and lost. CleanSpark went from green to red this week. And so, I've been talking about the fact I feel like all of these are going to end up green by the end of the year. And that's not necessarily a win, right? Because Bitcoin's up 65%. And, in a year, if they're up 65 or 70 or 80 or 90%, and your Bitcoin miner's up 20%, then you're probably not too happy. It's better than being down 39% like Riot is right now. Riot and Bitfarms, which have been busy arguing with each other all year, are the 2 worst performers on the year. And Marathon, which is the big dog in this entire industry, they are by far the largest by market cap. They're by far the largest by exahash. They mine the most Bitcoin per month out of any of the publicly traded Bitcoin miners. They're having a bad year. They're down 31%. So I think there's going to be a rotation. I think there's room for these stocks to run, the ones that are going to win. I now have a much higher level of conviction personally. Again, not financial advice. I have a higher level of conviction in what Marathon's doing now than what Riot is doing.
I like that, Lawrence. If the swings up and down still affects your feelings, then enjoy it. A few bull bear markets and it will be just fond memories.
So let's see what people did. In light of that, let's see what people did this week. A real split. 37%. Well, most people either bought or held. 37% bought, 48% held, 15% sold. And I guess we would really have to break down. Did people sell? If they sold Monday on that gigantic up day, then they took profits and they won. If you sold Thursday or Friday, then you probably got beat up a little bit. So hopefully you guys got out when the getting was good.
And didn't get back in.
That's right.
Yeah. Because that's what... See, you should have put down I cried as well. Corey. See, a lot of people cried. It's amazing how much it affects your emotions. You think you're finally over the hurdle, and they suck you back in.
Well, we've been fooled time after time after time after time. It's been, the roller. We know it's a roller coaster ride. We know it's huge volatility, but knowing it and living it are 2 different things. And this was rough. And this week for me, this final result for this week to me, I thought this was very surprising. I think this is from a stock performance standpoint, based on what happened on Monday. I thought this was one of the worst weeks for the Bitcoin miners all year. Now, as a percent, it wasn't one of the biggest down weeks. We've had awful weeks at some points this year, but just the price action on the stock this week was extremely disappointing. And we're about to get operational updates from all these, and we're about to get financial results for most of these. We already got 2. We got Cypher and Riot have already announced. I don't think people should be too surprised. I didn't think there would be big moves. After hours yesterday, Riot announced, I think it was yesterday, they announced their, so I'll go to the big board and take a look at what's what here. Yeah, so that was 2 days ago. So Riot ended up actually making a little bit back today. But they after hours yesterday, when 2 days ago, everything else was green. Riot announced earnings and they plummeted down 7 or 8 or 9%. But they ended up evening out and kind of doing what everything else did by the time the next day was over. And today you had big discrepancies. I mean, you had Cypher up 6.5% today. And you had TerraWolf down 5% today. You had Marathon down 4% today. Riot was green. I mean, it's like kind of like, throwing darts at a dartboard lately. We got these mixed days where half of the stocks are red, half the stocks are green, and it's hard to figure out, why, which one is which. Robin said there are a lot of guys underwater this week, and Sour Melon Gaming said no one wants the miners. So right now, nobody does want the miners. They are out of favor. There's no question about it. It seemed like, I'm going to go back here. A couple of weeks ago, it seemed like they were getting, this was 2 weeks ago. It seemed like we were getting momentum. Bitcoin had a giant up week. 11 of the 12 Bitcoin miners had a big up week. CleanSpark had a huge, I finally thought, to me, there's some numbers that I just thought, once this week happened, I thought some companies would start to hold some numbers, and I will tell you what they are. CleanSpark, I thought, was going to hold $12. They're now back down to $10.33. So I thought CleanSpark would hold 12. I thought Riot would hold 10. Bitfarms, I thought, would hold 2. And what was the other one? Marathon might have been 18, I felt like I thought they were going to hold. A lot of things got to a certain point, and it just seemed like they were back inside of a more natural trading range, and we were going to start to see some better price action. Now, we did pull back. If you go back, if we look at this 15-minute chart, back on Tuesday, we were up to almost a new all-time high. So from the top to the bottom, from the top to now, we're down 6%. But we were up more than that. If you go back to a week ago, so we're still up. This line down here was where we were last Friday. So we're still up week over week. We're just down off of our highs. So, as what oftentimes happens, the Bitcoin miners don't participate on a big Bitcoin up day. And then the next day, Bitcoin goes right back to where it was, and the Bitcoin miners have a terrible day.
I love Edmund.
Edmund said, nobody wants the miners? ? Yep, they want MicroStrategy. So MicroStrategy has been the big winner on the year. But I will tell you, even MicroStrategy, so we just looked at, let's go back to the year to date for everybody. And then, so this is year to date for everybody. So you can see there's 5 Bitcoin miners in the green. There's 2 that are having very good years. TerraWolf's up 158%. Core Scientific's up 135% year to date. If we compare that, which we've been doing lately, every time we look at this, we go to MicroStrategy. So MicroStrategy suffered like everybody else today. They were down 6% today. But if I go to year to date, they're still up 261% year to date. So they are doing better than the best Bitcoin miners. So, if you had all of your money in one thing, MicroStrategy is the thing that has outperformed Bitcoin. It's outperformed all the Bitcoin miners. It's outperformed anything that is any way tangentially related to Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. So, other than some meme coins, this, from an equity standpoint, this is the big winner so far. But even these guys got beat up today. It just was not, the 5 day, the 1 week, they were down on the week, 2.68%. So for whatever reason, nothing was immune this week. This was just a rough week for Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. Want to thank everybody for the likes. We are now over 100 likes. If anybody has just joined us or if they have not smashed the like button, let's try and get to 200. Appreciate all the likes. Thank you so much. And welcome to everybody. If you're new here, we're here every Friday. live. So welcome. We talk about Bitcoin. We talk about the Bitcoin miners, and we talk about any other major thing that happened during the week. So let's just talk quickly. I don't want to get too bogged down on this because I don't think it was that important, but let's talk about the big number today. And it was a big, big miss. So U.S. economy adds just 12,000 jobs in October. This was impacted by the hurricanes. There was a Boeing strike. The Dow Jones was estimating that they were going to add 100,000 jobs this month. And if this one has the chart, you'll see, like, look at previous months. We've had this back in February of 2022. This was the best month over the last several years. They added 900,000 jobs. But, even in some of these smaller months, 100,000 jobs is a small month. This 12,000, we haven't had a month like this. This was a gigantic miss. And the previous 2 months got revised down.
Tom,
so
are you talking about just Atlanta?
Yes, seriously. Well, and that's a part of the reason I think this didn't hit the market as badly. We had several natural catastrophes in the U.S. in this month. The Boeing workers went on strike, so there was some line of reason as to why this was a bad number, but this wasn't just a bad number. This is the worst number we've had in years and years, and not by a little, by a lot. So we'll see if this corrects itself. These get adjusted big time, over the this will get adjusted next month, and then it'll just get adjusted again the month after that. So we'll see where it ends up. But this was a huge, huge miss. But what surprised me is, so the Fed has a dual mandate. They want to keep employment where it's at. So the other part that we should mention, the unemployment rate, however, held at 4.1%. So despite these numbers, unemployment remained unchanged at 4.1%. And that's the reason I think that people didn't necessarily panic. There seemed to be an explanation for why this was such a gigantic miss. And the unemployment number was the same. So if you look at the Fed futures, the FedWatch tool, there's now a 97.8% chance of a 25 basis point rate cut. I will tell you, 2 hours before the market closed today, this was at 99.5%. So it moved just a little bit before the end of the day, but effectively the market has now priced in. That's the last real piece of information we're going to get between now and the next Fed meeting, other than, of course, a little thing called the elections here in the United States. But I don't think that will affect what the Fed does. So I think you can pretty much set your watch by it. You can lock it in. It looks like unless something bizarre happens, we're getting a 25 basis point rate cut in November. And if we look at December, the market's pricing in an 81 chance that we're going to get another 25 basis point rate cut in December. So that will mean 50 in the last one and then 25 and 25. So that will be a full 1% cut that they will have ended up doing in 2024. That was less than they were expecting all year long. What do you got, George? What's happening?
I'm just reading comments. I'm just reading the comments. Nothing. Just sour melon makes me laugh. You guys are funny today. It's good. Everybody's in a good sense of humor.
That's a good thing. I mean, that's all you can do on days like today, on weeks like this week. So the one thing I will say is if you look at this chart, so I'll zoom in, you can see we came on Tuesday, we got just short. This purple line was the all-time high that we hit in March. So we came within $200 of taking out the all-time high. We didn't quite do it. So I think it's fairly natural that we have now once, twice, 3 times, we have retested 69,000. 69,000 is a major line of resistance / support. So it had been resistance. We crossed it. And now the question is, can we turn this from resistance to support? Are we going to bounce off of this line and head back up from here? So I think that's the challenge over the weekend. If we can hold 69,000, I think that this is a pretty natural you know, if I go to the 1-day chart, you know, there's nothing weird to see here. There was a big move up here. We had a little pullback. There was a big move up here. We had a little pullback. But if we're looking at, you know, higher lows, we had that just go. You know, we had this low, then we got a higher low, then we got a higher low. So maybe, you know, then we got a higher low. Maybe somewhere in here is going to be a higher low, particularly if it can hold that 69,000. I think this is all very bullish. These pullbacks are normal. We get them all the time. This is standard operating procedure. So, you know, looking at it this way, you know, it wasn't very fun to have this pullback, but I do think holding 69 for now is important. So to me, that's my number one thing over this weekend. Can Bitcoin hold 69,000 and then continue this bull run? So let's make that our next poll right now.
Tom, as you doing that,
Yes.
are you losing weight?
Yeah, I have lost some weight. Thanks for noticing.
You look like you lost a ton of weight.
Yeah, I'm down a bunch. I'm down about 25 pounds.
Oh, wow. Well, maybe I'll get down there in Florida and fatten you back up.
That's why I lost the weight. When George is here, we eat ice cream every day. So
I gave up drinking, went for the ice cream.
I do miss the ice cream, though. So we'll just start with a quick, easy yes or no. Is Bitcoin going to hold? Is this line of resistance going to turn into a line of support? And if
I really hope so.
So it's this line right here. So you can see we bumped into this back in July, right? We bumped into this 69,000. We got rejected. We bumped into it back at the October, in the middle of October, got rejected. And then we pushed through and we pushed way past. Now we are right at the line. So if this line holds, then I think the next move is to a new all-time high. So we'll go through that poll next. For now, can we hold 69,000? I think that's an important thing to do. Now, if we don't hold 69,000, obviously it's not the end of the world. Bitcoin, you know, moves around a lot. I do think it would be crucial that, you know, we do not want to, we kind of had twice tested this line at around 60,000. We don't want to see ourselves get back into this range. So I think it's important. There's some more support. I don't have a line on here, but you can see, you know, somewhere, it's a little high, somewhere in this range in the $66,500 range, I think would be the next important area that we kind of need to hold. Maybe I'll just put a little line on there right now, because you can see we touched that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row. So let's change the color of that. So I'm going to leave this on here and let's see if the first thing is, let's see if we can hold 69,000. And if we can't, let's at least hold this 66,500. To me, those would be two very important things if we want to see the bullish trend continue for Bitcoin. All right, a couple other things from the Bitcoin miners that we have not yet talked about.
And then we go into our election.
All right. So we'll get through some things real quick because they're small ones. So Cleanspark announces it completes the acquisition of Grid. So they expect to grow over 400 megawatts of mining capacity in Tennessee. So they announced this a while ago. The acquisition is now complete. So this is a part of their plan. This is why I say, to me, CleanSpark's doing everything they're supposed to be doing. I'm expecting a good monthly operational update. And if we take a look at what CleanSpark is doing, while their stock is getting beaten down, if you look at their performance, if you look at and you'll see I've added the month of October, but so far Bitfarms is the only one who has reported. They're up 9%. I think that's going to be an outlier. October was a tough month. The hash rate hit a new all-time, or the difficulty level hit a new all-time high. You're going to see CleanSpark at 493. I mean, they are in second place. Obviously, Marathon's out in first place by a mile, but CleanSpark is in second place by a mile. Right? You've got Riot, which moved into third place at 412. You know, with more exahash mined, 80 Bitcoin less than CleanSpark did in the month. So I think CleanSpark's been operating very well. And so I'm expecting that to continue. Let's see what they can do. Can they get to 500 Bitcoin? That is what, because they did announce early in the month, they went from 27.6 exahash up to 30 exahash. So I think that gives them a very legitimate shot at maybe mining 500 Bitcoin. That to me would be big. So that's what I'm looking for. So by the end of next week, we're going to fill in a lot of these gaps and see how these Bitcoin miners did. And then we'll see if they, if the market reacts from a stock standpoint. Because again, I mean, CleanSpark had a great month last month, and they did not get rewarded for this at all. All right, let's go. George, this will segue to
my topic.
Yes. Oh, not this one. That's a different one. And I got a lot of stuff we haven't gotten to yet. Okay, so this came out, I think, today. Bitcoin can still hit 100K no matter who wins the U.S. election. The prospect of favorable regulations and Bitcoin hedge status mean that Bitcoin can weather any election results and even reach $100,000. So this is one person's opinion.
Who is this person?
This name right here, which I will not be pronouncing today as to not mispronounce and offend this person. But you can see this was written over on Cointelegraph by this individual.
And what is he citing? Is the reason why?
Let's see. With the growing number of Bitcoin and altcoin holders in the United States, any winner would make crypto regulation a key issue. So regardless of whether former President Trump or Vice President Harris becomes the commander-in-chief, Bitcoin's march towards 100K seems inevitable, driven by underlying factors that transcend the political landscape. So we've talked a lot about that on this channel, the Bitcoin adoption, and I have another article about the state of Florida buying Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. There is Bitcoin adoption, and I'm going to show you what the hedge funds did, and it's head spinning. I'm sorry, not the hedge funds, the Bitcoin ETFs. We're going to go through those numbers after, and I find them shocking. What BlackRock is now all in on Bitcoin. I mean, what they did over the last few days is huge. So we'll get to that in a few minutes. I want to definitely go through. The ETFs are on a rampage. And it's so, for all of those types of reasons, for all of the adoption that's just starting to occur with more to follow, this person's opinion, and I hold the same opinion. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't matter who wins. That may be that if one candidate wins, Bitcoin will run even higher than it would have if the other one does. But I do think in either instance, I think Bitcoin is on a trajectory. We're in a bull market, and I think it's going to run its course. And 100,000 to me is low. Not financial advice. My number is 150, and I read another article I didn't even bring up where they did a mathematical equation based on the last three halvings, and they came up with two potential outcomes, and one was 260, and the other one was $390,000. So I've seen big predictions for this cycle. I'm sticking with my 150, and I understand, could be less, could be more. I'm not going to be shocked by numbers that resemble that on either side. You got a number for this bull market, George?
I mean, I can't imagine it goes over 200. I just get nervous because, when a powerful entity has a lying share of any asset, they can really manipulate it.
Yeah, you don't want to see huge consolidation, but there's 21 million Bitcoin. Let's see how many the ETFs have. I mean, it's still a small fraction because out of here, I'll show you. Let's go to that real quick. Okay, so the Bitcoin spot ETFs have $24 billion worth of Bitcoin. Remember, Bitcoin's a $1.4 trillion asset. So even with this massive buying, and here's what I'm talking about. If you take a look at what BlackRock's done in the last 2 weeks, 2 days ago, they bought $872 million worth of Bitcoin. 3 days ago, they bought $642 million worth of Bitcoin. All in the last 15 days, the Bitcoin spot ETFs have bought over $5.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. They now own over $24 billion of Bitcoin. That number was at around $17 billion just within the last month. So this is growing and growing. And, there'll be pauses, there'll be ups, there'll be downs. We know the volatility is real. We know there's giant swings, but I see this continuing to grow. And when you see BlackRock move in like this, and they have $26 billion themselves, which is more than the total because Grayscale. So this is the net inflow. Grayscale has had an outflow of $20 billion because they started with a significant amount in their trust. Their trust got converted. So this $24 billion that is held is net of the $20 billion outflow from Grayscale. But it's still a small fraction of the total Bitcoin out there. But BlackRock does seem to be kind of all in the month of October on Bitcoin, whereas they sat out on the sidelines in the month of September. With that said, back to you, George.
Sorry, hang on. I have a question because do you think the price of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin has been suppressed at all because of the current administration and the SEC?
Well, I think there's no doubt, in particular, the SEC, Gary Gensler. I think anybody that is in the cryptocurrency universe is not a big fan of Gary Gensler. He's just issued another Wells report on another exchange. I mean, he's been very uncooperative with all of the cryptocurrency exchanges. He's been very uncooperative with, they've long since given up on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is considered a commodity. The SEC isn't even arguing that or discussing it anymore. But even Ethereum, that was still in debate. Now, they did all these Ethereum ETFs, so I think that kind of went a long way. But yes, this administration, and in particular the SEC, has not been Bitcoin friendly at all. And Congress, in its normal state of gridlock, hasn't really managed to pass any regulation. So that uncertainty does weigh over the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency universe, in my opinion.
So I guess you have to come to your own conclusion whether, if one administration wins over another, if it's going to be better for Bitcoin or the crypto market in general. That's up to you to decide then. But to me, it's pretty, obvious what the answer is.
So, for example, and again, campaign promises do not necessarily equal action 100% of the time, right? Because sometimes because they're just promises they don't intend to keep, sometimes because they're not able to keep them because they don't have the House or the Senate or whatever the case may be. But one of the things that Trump has said is, on day one, he's going to fire Gary Gensler. Yeah. So I think, the crypto universe, for that reason, tends to lean more in that direction, even just on that one thing alone. Trump's been very pro Bitcoin. He is perceived as the pro Bitcoin candidate. The betting odds show that. Everything shows that. So that's kind of what's going on out there. What the reality is, like you just said, everybody has to decide for themselves, look at the facts and decide for yourself, what you think. And obviously, a lot of people's vote isn't necessarily going to be based on, how they feel the candidates are going to do with cryptocurrency. There's a lot of other issues as well.
Well, I think, it's kind of funny because as I listen to the candidates talk, I haven't even heard one candidate talk about which is Harris, whether they're going to change any of their cabinet positions. I haven't even spoke of any of that. You know that? Which is kind of, that's kind of ridiculous when you think about it. I mean,
Edmund's asking, what's your answer, George, if you want to share your answer?
What's my answer regarding?
The question of who will be better for Bitcoin.
Well, I think I was just reading and this is what that Pomp guy said. Anthony Pomp, I happened to go on my LinkedIn. A few people are trying to get me to work for them, but I said, no, I don't want to work for you. Really seriously, by the way, that's real. The leading Republican candidate is talking about removing taxes for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. This was 2 days ago. Quote from Trump. They have them paying tax on crypto, and I don't think that's right. Bitcoin is money, and you have to pay capital gains tax if you use it to buy a coffee, ? I was talking with a friend, and he said it really shouldn't be taxed, and I agree. So that's an interesting statement.
Well, it is an interesting dilemma because, with your stocks, if you own stock in Tesla, you don't use your Tesla stock to go buy a cup of coffee, right? So you don't have this same question. So it is a very interesting question. There's two different ways, for the people that are investing in Bitcoin and they buy $1 million worth and sell it and make kinds of money, should that be treated differently than the people who are using, what's the fast network? What's that thing called?
The Lightning.
Bitcoin Lightning Network. If you're buying a cup of coffee on the Lightning Network and, by selling your Bitcoin, you made a couple bucks, is that a taxable event? These are the nuances. There's so many nuances, and we just aren't getting any answers yet from Congress as to, what the rules and regulations are. So yeah, it's that, but that's another catalyst. At some point, we're going to get the answer to these questions, you would think.
Can you do a poll before we talk about election?
Sure.
Here's the poll.
Let me end this one real quick. Will Bitcoin hold 69,000 over the weekend? 76 or 3/4 of you say yes, it will. Okay, go ahead, George. What's the new poll?
The poll is who are you going to vote for? Trump or Harris, Trump, don't want to say, or undecided. And if we don't get any undecided, there's really no sense to talk about anything to do with the election. How about that one, guys?
Well, should we just phrase the question? Have you decided who you're voting for?
Oh, okay. You can do that.
That way people don't have to disclose if they don't feel like disclosing.
There you go.
All right, so that's a good point, because if everybody's already made up their mind, I suspect the vast majority of people have made up their mind. We're days away. These are very polarizing candidates, so, I suppose there's some people out there that may not have, but we'll wait and see what Ken is saying. Can't wait till Gensler is gone for good. And Barry saying, George, we're not all from the U.S. So thank you, Barry, for pointing that out. I know a lot of you,
but you're from Canada. You guys should be allowed to vote. I think
they vote in their Canadian elections.
No. I think they were recruited to vote. Barry, why don't you vote it? That seems to be the rad thing to do.
So for those of you not in the United States, sorry we're getting bogged down in this, but it's not irrelevant. The U.S. elections do have a big impact. I mean, this is the topic that's out there, and I found a couple articles that I showed you, but I could have found 100 more. This is what people are talking about. So we're not going to spend the whole stream on this, and we will move on, but we wanted to at least address it since this is the last non-members only live stream before the election. And Edmund is saying, Tom, stocks are securities. Bitcoin is not a security. RFK strongly endorses tax-free Bitcoin. So it is our. Thank you, Edmund, for that distinction. And it was RFK's. That was one of his big pieces of his platform. That
I knew you lived in Canada.
That should be tax-free, and that is a fundamental difference. Bitcoin is not a security. So, and I agree with you, Edmund, especially as it pertains to if you're using your Bitcoin to make purchases as money. It's hard to penalize people for that, I guess, is what I would say.
It's a very small number so far, Tom. Oh, it's climbing though.
Oh, we got a decent number of votes. Well, while we take a moment for a commercial break, if you have not yet, or if you just got here, if you'd be so kind as to smash the like button. We're going for 200 likes, and I'd like to thank everybody for the 136 likes that we have right now. Much appreciated. This was a weird, wild week for Bitcoin, and I thought the price action on the Bitcoin miners was bizarre. We'll go through it again a little bit more. I do have a bunch more that we can get to, and we have
Tom,
not
did
talked.
You vote?
I have not voted yet.
I have voted.
So we have a bunch of people here from Canada. So as always, thank you for joining us. Welcome to all the people from Canada. Welcome to all the people from all around the world. I know we have members and subscribers from everywhere, which is great. It's nice to have a diverse group and get different opinions from different places around the world because everybody has a different perspective.
Yeah, I wonder. That's an interesting one. I think I would move, if Bitcoin became non-tax, I would move all my fiat into Bitcoin right now. So if you think that doesn't have a pressure on the price of Bitcoin.
That's why I think it has to be nuanced. I just don't think you can straight up say Bitcoin is not taxed at all, period.
Why? Why can't you just sign that as an executive order?
Whether or not you logistically can do it, my point would be, all the other commodities, if you trade and make money on, you pay taxes.
They're not. It's not a commodity though.
Well, Bitcoin right now is considered a commodity.
Right. It's a car.
It's a car?
Maybe you pay taxes on it when you buy it, and then you don't have to pay any taxes on it ever again.
Well, I don't want to pay taxes on it when I buy it either.
Well, you don't buy it anyways.
Sour Melon Gaming, thank you very much for the super chat. Sour Melon Gaming said, bought $20K in contracts on Trump to win. That's going all in. I did notice, for those of you who use Robinhood, they have on their landing page, at the top of the page, they've got the ability to bet the futures on, on Trump or Harris. So there's betting for the U.S. election going on Robinhood, as well as many other places. Polymarket has the most money by far that's being bet. I did read that it is not legal in the U.S. to bet on Polymarket, but my guess is through the use of the magic of VPNs, there are people that are doing so. Not
No, I don't think
myself.
so. I don't think anybody would violate the law, Tim.
I agree. That would be
What is the
egregious.
crime?
It's not legal.
I know, but what's the penalty?
I do not know the answer to that question.
Do you know how many times Marathon has gotten me? Marathon just does not like George.
I
Every
don't
single time they get me.
I don't know why they were down 4% today. I don't get it. I don't get today's price action. I just don't get it. Why was BitDeer up 0.5%? Why was I don't know. Everything was all over the place today. This is what I'm saying. It was a very strange price action. It was
Can we talk about P. Diddy without getting in trouble?
no.
I heard there's no party like a P. Diddy party.
Oh boy.
That's what they said. That's the statement that they used to make. Riot doesn't like me. Yeah. I don't think Riot likes anybody. What's a VPN? Lawrence asked. I don't know what it is. Visiting
Look it
private
up.
nurse.
Google it.
I thought it's not a visiting private nurse.
That could be one of the things. All right, I got a BitDeer related story, so let's talk BitDeer for a second. BitDeer launches second generation Bitcoin mining machine. Seal Miner A2 achieves roadmap goals. So with a powerful efficiency rating of only 16.5 joules per terahash, its air cooling and hydro cooling mining machines boast a hash rate of 226 terahash per second and 446 terahash per second, respectively. Here's the thing that I worry about with BitDeer with their own machines. So I'm going to show you the press release that they put out a while ago. So you'll see they've now introduced the Seal Miner A2 at 16.5 joules per terahash. Well, if we go back in time to June 6th, you'll see they put out a roadmap for these Seal Miner machines, and they were going to do the 1, 2, 3, 4. The first thing is this was the Seal Miner O2. Now it's the Seal Miner A2. Don't know. Is that the same thing? I don't know. They don't say. But expected in Q3 of 2024. Well, we're now in Q4 of 2024. So this is the machine they put out. They were projecting this to be at 14 joules per terahash. So I talked about at great length the fact that these numbers seemed not even necessarily this one, but the Seal 3 down to 10 and the Seal 4 expected next year down to 5 joules per terahash. I've seen one other press release in the last 3 or 4 years that felt like this press release. And that company is no longer in business anymore. And I'm not saying that's going to happen to BitDeer. BitDeer's a much bigger company. They have a lot more going on. They have some good things going on. But I remain extremely skeptical. This at the time they put this out, this was 3 generations out from the machine that they were working on. And to expect to get from 18 joules to 5 joules in 1 year is just much more rapid growth in efficiency than anything that's ever happened before. So we'll see what happens. But the first one they dropped did not hit their goal. So just FYI. And again, this doesn't trade on big volume. This, I think, is a Singapore company, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. They usually will say, yeah, so Singapore. So it is traded on the NASDAQ again, but it's a Singapore company. So George usually likes to point out these companies usually do struggle a little bit getting institutional adoption, and they have less volume. And Midway is saying, I think the O2 refers to just the chip, but the A2 is actually the finished machine, which always has a slightly higher joules per terahash. So that may be exactly right, Midway. Thanks for that clarification. I just still remain skeptical. They're going to jump down to 10 and then down to 5. I know we're getting more and more efficient over time, but this is 1 year apart. That's mind-bogglingly aggressive. And if they get an effective machine out of 5 joules per terahash, if you think about it, that means every single company has to basically throw out every single machine on the entire Bitcoin network, because most of the network is operating at more than 5 times that many joules per terahash right now. So I guess that's what it would be, a game changer, the likes of which we've never seen in this industry, but I can't say definitively. Only time will tell.
Huh. My computer died, so now I can't read anybody's comments. So now you can rip on me and it won't affect me at all. Not that it really affects me anyways.
So I want to show everybody this. We are most of the way through the next block to get to the next difficulty adjustment. Look at what is going on right here. If this holds, we're going to get an 8% adjustment to the upside. Now this could change, right? We're not at the end of the cycle here. So block 868, 896. That's when we get our next difficulty adjustment. But if everything holds right now, we're going to be over 100 trillion on this. And, we were at 86 trillion like two updates ago. So this is going up fast. Right? We were at 88 back on October 5th. I mean, that's not even 1 month ago. And we're looking to potentially move up to 103. I mean, so we'll see what happens. We'll see where this ends. But, the higher the difficulty level, the worse the economics are for these Bitcoin miners, which leads me to our article of the week from JP Morgan. Bitcoin mining revenue / profit fell in October for a 4th consecutive month. This from JP Morgan. The network's monthly average hash rate surged to a record high, the report said. Daily mining revenue and gross profit fell in October for the 4th month in a row, the report said. The bank noted that daily block rewards gross profit fell to the lowest point on recent record. Mining difficulty hit an all-time high in October, the bank said, and we just saw, if this holds, it's going to crush that and hit an all-time high again in November, which is all the more impressive if you go back to, for those of you who weren't here, if we go back to this chart, Bitcoin, even with the difficulty level at an all-time high and really no improvement in their hash rate, they did mine 9% more Bitcoin in October than they did in September. So by that regard, they did have a successful month mining. They just did not have a successful month getting their exahash up and running, which they've been promising that they were going to do. And Midway saying BitDeer is high risk, high reward. I think it'll keep it at a 20%. I think I'll keep it at a 20% position among my mining stocks just in case their self-made mining machines wind up doing extremely well. So that's a strategy right there. It sounds like you're diversified amongst several stocks, and you're going to have different levels of risk among each one of those stocks. So I think that makes a lot of sense, Midway. And what are the fees like for miners these days? So this article talks about the fact that the fees actually went way up. Let me see if I can get back to that article. Let's see. So here, on a positive note, transaction fees spiked to as high as 60% of the block reward towards the end of the month, providing some hash price relief. The bank said the hash price is a measure of mining company daily revenue. So the fees did spike at the end of October. And if we look, we are really fighting this line. We're at 68,931. We're looking to try to hold 69,000. That's been kind of my mission for the weekend. Have you decided who you're voting for? So 85% of the people have decided who they're voting
80,
for.
20 again?
Yeah, we keep getting 50-50s or 80-20s.
So how many people voted?
Let's see, 72 people.
So 7, and it's what? 15%?
Yeah, so around 10 people.
10 people. Well, I mean, it's not worth blowing up the stream over 10 people. The only thing I can say to those 10 people is whatever decision you make, realize you're stuck with it for 4 years. Whatever way you want to look at that.
It's just like investing. Learn what you can learn, do your due diligence, and you know, vote based on your beliefs.
Yeah, just don't vote just for the sake of voting if you don't know anything. If you don't know anything, you shouldn't vote. That's person, right? I don't know. I mean,
that's everybody's own personal decision. For me personally, if I didn't have any idea what was what and who was who, I wouldn't vote. But that's just me personally. You know, everybody, if you've got the right to vote, you know, that's a lot of people, you know, want to exercise that right. Sour Melon Gaming, thanks for the super chat. Asked if November and December report is bad, will you sell Bitfarms? So I will say I will have to do a gigantic reassessment if the November and December report are bad, and I have no clarity as to when they are going to get to their 21 exahash, then I'm going to have to very seriously consider moving that into a different Bitcoin miner or MicroStrategy or Bitcoin itself or the Bitcoin Spot ETF. So I will be, right now, I think I have reason to, over the next 60 to 90 days, keep a close eye on Riot and Bitfarms. And you know, if you follow the channel for a long time, you'll know, you know, I've been a fan of Bitfarms for a long time. I'm a big fan of Ben. So I think we're going to get the clarity we're looking for. I'm optimistic that, you know, they're going where I thought they were going, but I have to, you know, I got to call them as I see them. And this month, they didn't tell us what they should have told us, in my opinion. I thought this report was lacking in detail that we desperately needed as investors, in my opinion. And Midway saying,
I'm a big opponent of Ben too. Bend over. Sorry.
Oh boy, you're all week. Midway saying Cleanspark is much more of a sure thing than BitDeer. BitDeer needs to raise a ton of money. So yeah, I have a super high level of conviction in Cleanspark. It might be my highest conviction stock that I hold. That's just my personal opinion, not financial advice. Midway said, arguably, Marathon Riot Cleanspark might benefit from trying to merge with BitDeer to get in-house mining machines forever, plus BitDeer's 2.5 gigawatts of power. So BitDeer has that giant amount of power that they're going to build out over time. They have their own machines that they're building. I would remind everybody that Marathon has a relationship with a company that's building its own machines as well. So they've been very hush-hush about the details of all of that. And we'll see if there's more. You know, we really didn't get a lot of, we've gotten a lot of mergers and acquisitions, but maybe not what people thought. I think people thought, you know, a lot of the big name companies, a lot of the big name Bitcoin miners were going to merge with other big name Bitcoin miners. And we haven't had that happen. We've seen more of this type of stuff right here, like Cleanspark buying grid infrastructure plays in order to grow their business versus just buying somebody else's Bitcoin business. Sour Melon Gaming said, Ben is toying with us. He should have come clean sooner instead of lying about it. That alone has me on the edge of selling Bitfarms. So for me, I'm going to give them more time. Right? This is one report. Something's going on. I hope they can tell us what that is sooner than later, I guess is what I would say. And Midway saying CleanSpark needs a lot more power sites for their future, and they do, and they have continued to be very successful about staying ahead and growing their infrastructure. They've got a lot of different sites, but they continue to grow their own infrastructure and, you know, buy and operate their own machines. So I like everything CleanSpark's doing. That's my opinion. So let's see. You got any other thoughts, George? Thoughts, questions, comments? See George, but I don't know if he can hear us anymore. All right. Well, we'll see if we can get George back in the next minute or two, but that's pretty much everything that I had on my list. Oh, we did not go through. There is one more very big thing that I think we should go through, so we'll do that. If I can find it.
Sorry.
Welcome back.
I was yelling at somebody. When I lose money, I start yelling at people.
Is this article? Well, if I can't find it, I'll just talk about it. 20 seconds. So I don't know why I can't find this article, but essentially, MicroStrategy has basically said over the next 3 years, they're looking to buy $42 billion worth of Bitcoin. So if we look at them, if we take a look at MicroStrategy, they're at $46 billion market cap right now. Now, they traded a big premium to the amount of Bitcoin that they hold. So if they were to buy another $42 billion, you know, that would, if all things being the same as they are right now, that would be like another $100 billion of market cap. So you're looking at maybe $150 billion market cap company. Now, depending on, you know, the price of Bitcoin, maybe more, who knows? But in any event, Michael Saylor continues with MicroStrategy to be all in buying Bitcoin. Obviously, they are by far and away the largest institution, the largest publicly traded holder of Bitcoin, of their own Bitcoin.
I got my tax bill.
I got one more thing for you, George, and then we'll see if you got any parting thoughts. Oh, that's not it. 21 Shares files Form S1 with SEC for a spot XRP ETF. That is the third. Canary Capital and Bitwise have also filed for XRP ETFs. Thoughts? Right now, we only have two cryptocurrencies that have ETFs, one of which is doing very well, and let me show you the other one. Right, we looked at Bitcoin has $24 billion of inflow. Conversely, Ethereum has a bunch of ETFs in the U.S., and they have $500 million of outflow. So different results. What about XRP?
I don't know. I don't know anymore.
You're throwing up your hands for now? That's it?
$1,000. We need to move this.
For the lawyer racks, do you have hard?
No, I didn't get any. No.
You don't.
Sorry. I'm going to get in trouble. I don't want to get yelled at again.
Don't
No,
do it.
not you. I'm used to being yelled at by you.
Well, we're basically done, so I'm going to wrap it up. So any parting thoughts, George, before we go all enjoy our weekend?
No, I'm pretty happy.
All right. Well, I would like to say thank you. Special thanks to all of our members. Thanks, of course, to all of the subscribers, everybody who smashed the like button, everybody that showed up. My takeaway is I'm hoping Bitcoin can hold $69,000 over the weekend. I think that would be bullish. We'll see what happens. I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. To the members, we'll see you on the Tuesday members only live stream. To everybody else, we are here every Friday after the market closes to talk about Bitcoin, the Bitcoin miners, and anything else major that's going on. So have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Thanks.
And I'll let everybody know I was on Starlink Mini that whole time. How about
Nice.
that? That's pretty impressive, huh?
And it worked. You were loud and clear.
Perfect. See you, everybody.
Have a good weekend.
See you.
So you don't have any hardware?
Oh, Becky, I have partners.
Then where are you at?
No.